All right, my friends, welcome back to part 2 of this series on fraud accountability. In part 1, we broke down the 2026 state bills in Florida and Arizona, and why lawmakers are pushing them, and why I believe the laws these two states are enacting will spread to other states. Now in part 2, we get into the part that actually makes trucking companies sweat. The penalties, not little slaps on the wrist, but actual penalties that will finally put a stop to all of these fraudulent shenanigans that have been going on for way too long. And I'm going to say this again for the folks in the back. These bills, and soon-to-be laws, aren't about going after legal drivers or trucking companies that handle their business in a legal manner. This is about illegal drivers using fraudulent CDLs and the trucking companies that are enabling it by hiring individuals that are not legally allowed to be behind the wheel of a commercial vehicle that requires a CDL.
Florida's bill, which is due to be passed into law, proposes strict penalties for motor carriers employing undocumented commercial drivers, including a $50,000 civil fine per violation, immediate vehicle impoundment, and mandatory detention of the driver for transfer to federal immigration authorities. The bill also mandates out-of-service orders for carriers and bans operation in Florida until compliance is met. Those boys down in Florida aren't playing around, Jim, and I, for one, am glad to see it.
Oh yeah, it's nice to see something finally being done. In the past, government lawmakers loved to keep kicking that proverbial soup can down the road, all the while trying to pretend what has been going on in the trucking industry wasn't their problem. Under the new Florida legislation, trucking companies are now going to be forced to do things the legal way, or they may face a $50,000 civil penalty. And this isn't a one and done. This fine is for each incident or upon discovery during an investigation that an unauthorized individual operated a commercial motor vehicle. And to drive the final nail home, trucks driven by unauthorized individuals will be impounded and cannot be released until the $50,000 penalty is paid or a bond is posted.
First, Florida's proposal: what happens to the driver and what happens to the motor carrier.
Florida is going aggressive, and like you said a moment ago, Bernie, those boys in Florida ain't playing around. The bill says if law enforcement determines a person operating a commercial motor vehicle is an unauthorized alien, the officer must take that person into custody and facilitate transfer to a federal immigration agency. So, for the driver, the consequence is immediate. They're getting detained and turned over to immigration.
And what happens to the truck? I thought I read something somewhere about possibly getting seized and sold with proceeds going to fix the roads or something like that.
You're thinking about Arizona, my friend. We'll get to them in a moment. Getting back to Florida, they require the truck to be impounded and moved to a secure storage facility or impound lot. And the bill makes the owner responsible for paying the costs and fees tied to that impoundment before release. Florida ties this into the state's out-of-service authority. The bill text and analysis describe out-of-service orders and conditions for removing them, and that the enforcement office can issue them when violations occur. And the pre-meeting committee document says, if a motor carrier owns, leases, or operates a commercial motor vehicle that was driven by an unauthorized alien taken into custody, that carrier may not operate in the state of Florida. That's not a slap on the wrist. That's a business stopper.
Next, Arizona's proposal: seizure, sale, and an employer penalty tied to the truck's value.
Arizona's approach is a bit different. Florida focuses on unauthorized status plus carrier penalties and out-of-service action. Meanwhile, Arizona is tying enforcement to fraudulent CDL possession and unlawful presence in the United States.
Arizona's bill was introduced on January 15th of 2026 by Representative David Livingston, and it's built around a very specific trigger: a person unlawfully present in the USA who possesses a falsified CDL. The reporting on this bill states it would make it a Class 5 felony for a person unlawfully present to possess a falsified CDL. Now here's where it gets wild. Arizona's bill would require police to seize the semi-truck if the driver is unlawfully in the United States and presents a fraudulent CDL. And if the truck is titled to the violator, it gets sold.
Wow. Those boys in Arizona aren't playing games anymore either, are they? Nice to see. Hopefully it will get more and more of the illegals off the highways. Hey, Jim, so what happens if the truck isn't titled to the driver, if it's titled to a trucking company?
That's when the hammer comes down. The reporting says if the truck is titled to someone who knowingly employed the violator, the truck gets sold and the employer must pay a civil penalty equal to the fair market value of the truck. So in Arizona, companies aren't just looking at fines. They're potentially looking at losing the equipment value or paying its value, depending on how the title is set up.
This is the bill I was thinking about earlier. It directs proceeds from the sale of seized equipment into Arizona's Highway User Revenue Fund, meaning the money is going to be used for road upkeep and infrastructure repairs.
Now, the really big question. What's going to happen when these drivers and trucking companies that operate in an illegal manner cross a state line?
Now that's an important legal point to think about. These are state bills, but trucking is interstate commerce. So what's the real-world outcome when an illegal driver is caught in a commercial motor vehicle running loads through multiple states?
Here's the honest answer. The state action is the first domino. In Florida's bill structure, the driver can be taken into custody and transferred to federal immigration agencies. That creates a pipeline where federal authorities can look beyond the driver and ask, who recruited or hired this illegal driver? Who processed his CDL paperwork? Was there document fraud somewhere along the line? And if so, who is responsible?
So while the bill itself is state-level enforcement, the practical outcome can trigger federal scrutiny if there's identity fraud or forgery, visa fraud, or a pattern across multiple states.
Next, what about freight brokers? Are brokers named in these state bills? And what liabilities do brokers face anyway?
So is there anywhere in the Florida or Arizona legislation that explicitly creates any penalties for freight brokers that knowingly or unknowingly tender loads to illegal drivers or to fraudulent trucking companies?
Not in what's been published in the Florida bill or in the summaries and committee documents that we're discussing. Florida's bill targets drivers and motor carriers, and Arizona's focuses on the driver and the employer linked to the truck title and knowing employment.
Right. That's too bad. First things first, though, nice to see them start to make it really painful for these fly-by-night illegal drivers and the trucking companies that keep hiring them and putting them behind the wheel. Even without a broker-specific state penalty, brokers can be sued under theories like negligent selection if they repeatedly tender loads to unsafe or non-compliant carriers. And don't lose sight of the fact that if a broker tenders a load and that load delivery is hindered in any way, the broker risks losing that shipper as a client. No more client means no more money. So it actually behooves a broker to be really picky on who he or she tenders their freight to.
Exactly. There was a federal bill introduced in December of 2025. The name of it is the Patrick and Barbara Kowalski Freight Brokers Safety Act that would penalize brokers for contracting with unsafe carriers. Landline reported that this bill would impose a civil penalty equal to 10% of the value of the contracted cargo when brokers hire carriers meeting certain unsafe criteria.
So all in all, I think things are looking up with regard to the direction the trucking industry is headed. Florida and Arizona's immigration and fraud approach and stance should get other states to do the same. It's nice to see that the FMCSA has also been making sweeping changes as well. Well, my friends, be safe out there, and remember to keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down. We are trying to grow this channel to help truck drivers while also educating the general public. You can help us out by smashing that like button and the notification bell. Remember to subscribe and share this with another driver.
Take care, my friends. Remember to protect your load, protect your rig, and protect yourself. Leave us a comment below with your thoughts and ideas. If it's a good idea, we will share it with everyone. Subscribe for more trucking truth, and together we'll keep hammering this issue till somebody listens.